A selfie, a train melody, a teen cold call, sometimes the smallest technical choice exposes the biggest system. These 8 stories show how quiet infrastructure and odd design decisions can leave a lasting mark. 1 selfie started slowing Twitter down. A normal post suddenly became the busiest image on the platform. Twitter was built for real-time sharing, so every repost pushed the same image through the same traffic path. That meant attention could concentrate fast. The image handling workflow became the bottleneck. The system had to process one picture while serving a flood of requests for it. Users felt it as slow loads and failed refreshes. The platform strain showed up in real time on phones, browsers, and timelines. A simple selfie became a stress test for scale. 1 image, 1 share button, and a crowded server rack. A propeller can look bent in a photo, even when the blade is straight. The camera is not taking one full snapshot. It uses a rolling shutter. That means the sensor records the frame line by line. Each row lands a moment later. A fast spinning blade shifts between those rows, so the propeller lands in different positions on screen. The blade is still straight in the air. The curve comes from the camera reading it in slices, 1 line at a time. 2 17-year-old developers cold-called Electronic Arts before anyone invited them in. Then they mailed a copy of Dream Zone. The context was simple. There was no formal studio path in front of them, so they reached the company directly, using a phone and a game copy as proof they had work to show. Dream Zone mattered because it was tangible evidence, not just a pitch. The cold call opened the door, and the shipped copy gave the conversation something concrete to judge. Electronic Arts responded with a contract. For 2 teenagers, that meant the call stopped being a gamble and became a real publishing conversation. A phone call, a mailed copy, and a contract turned a bedroom project into a publisher meeting. The doorway was a desk, a receiver, and Dream Zone. A 2013 comeback single got promoted on Myspace, the social network many people thought was finished. That mismatch is the strange part. The platform was being relaunched, and music marketing needed an online audience, so the old brand became available again as a stage. Instead of starting from zero, the campaign used Myspace's old social network identity. That gave the single a familiar place to appear during the relaunch. Fans saw a dated platform used in a new way, and the promotion stood out because of the contrast. The site itself became part of the message. A comeback can travel through whatever platform still carries attention. In this case, the route ran through Myspace, a relaunch, and 1 single. A train station in Japan played a graduation song when trains left the platform. Not a beep, but a melody. Stations need a clear audio cue when doors close and departure begins. Here, the familiar tune stood in for that signal. The song worked as a signal because people recognize its timing instantly. The melody told writers, in sound, that departure was starting. That turned transit sound design into something practical and memorable. 1 melody could mark movement without needing a harsh alarm. So a familiar graduation song became part of the platform routine. At departure, the tune hangs over the rails as the train rolls out. The first railway in Trinidad started as a tramway. That sounds backwards until you see the tracks. The line was the Cipero Tramway in Trinidad and Tobago. It ran before later rail systems arrived. A tramway and a railway can overlap in function. Here, the same tracks carried transport and movement first. That made the Cipero Tramway the first operational railway. It gave Trinidad and Tobago an early rail backbone before later lines. So a modest tramline became the country's first working rail infrastructure. The rails, sleepers, and junctions were already doing the job. A former defense secretary was linked to a mobile game. That sounds impossible until you see how app credits can stretch beyond game studios. Donald Rumsfeld was a U.S. Secretary of Defense, but he was also a businessman. Mobile games are software products, and software projects often pull in people from outside one field. The odd part is not a celebrity cameo. The point is that his name sat somewhere inside the development chain, where a game can include investors, advisors, or organizers. That kind of crossover is common in mobile development. A game can move from a small studio to a boardroom, then into an app store on one phone screen. So the strange detail is not that a politician played games, it is that a political name could sit beside code, funding, and a launch build on the same desk. A new country's first game had to start somewhere. In 1996, Admiral Sea Battles became the first release in independent Ukraine. Ukraine had become independent only a few years earlier. A game release in 1996 sat inside that early post-independence period, when local tech scenes were still forming. Admiral Sea Battles mattered because it was identified as the first video game developed in independent Ukraine. That makes it a milestone for local game development, not just one title on a shelf. The immediate result was symbolic and practical. It showed that games could be built locally, inside an emerging industry, instead of arriving only from outside. So 1996 release stands in for a beginning. Admiral Sea Battles sits near the first chapter of Ukraine's game industry, beside a monitor and a diskette. If you enjoyed these hidden mechanisms, subscribe for more factual stories behind everyday tech, and tell us which one surprised you most.